in people's agency and coming together in compassion and love for all of us who are traversing this territory, no matter what our life choices are, and feel so blessed to be here alongside John and everyone else here, really feeling like this is a place where even when we don't feel necessarily like we belong, we belong to each other. We care about each other, and we are here to be there for one another. So that's probably a good enough introduction to me, but I'm really grateful to be here.
Thanks. And I forgot to mention really quick, I'm in a same-sex marriage, and my husband and I have been together for over 23 years now.
My name is Sue Rains, and I'm not gay, but I'm very happy. I'm originally from England, and met my husband at BYU. We've been married for 35 years, and are in what they call a MOM, which is a mixed orientation marriage. And when he told me, after we'd been married for about 15 years, when he told me, I was so angry and disgusted and cried and just had no idea on how I was going to handle this. And I'm very fortunate because, not only do I have my wonderful husband here, but I also have John, who is one of the main reasons why I'm here today, because he helped me from the beginning.
I'm Ron Rains, and I was born and raised in Eugene, Oregon, and that's where we live today. We're active members of the church in the Santa Clara 4th Ward in the Santa Clara State, which is one of 3 states in Eugene, Oregon. I'm a convert to the church. My wife is also 40 plus years, and we're the parents of 3 beautiful daughters that we're very proud of. I think that's good enough.
So, I think we would love to kind of get a sense of the temperature in this room. And so what we'd like to ask at this point is to go around, and if you feel comfortable, only if you feel comfortable. If you don't feel comfortable, just say pass and we'll move on. But to go around the room, share your name, share where you are, and think of 3 words. 3 words that you can say about your feelings right now, about the church, and particularly in relation to the policy. And why don't do you mind if we start here and just kind of weave back and forth?
Dean Snelling from Vancouver, British Columbia. Distant, apostatized, mistake, but correctable.
Thank you.
My name is Matt Perry. I took about 4 years off from the church after finishing BYU. I'm currently active in the Stanford First Ward in Palo Alto. And 3 words about apprehensive and positive outlook.
Thank you.
My
That's
name
super.
is Audrey Moore. 3 words, alone, rejected, and misunderstood.
My name is Pablo. With regards to the policy, I feel hopeless. Discouraged, and same as Audrey, misunderstood.
My name is Shar. The 3 words I have is why, questioning, and just don't understand.
I'm Shelby Bisk. We live in Corona, not too far from here. 3 words. I would say sad and angered, but hopeful.
Yes.
My son Logan.
My name is Brittany. We're from Phoenix. We haven't been able to go back since
policy came out. I would say broken, hopeless, and scared.
My name's Andy, I'm Brittany's husband. I'm confused, frustrated, and share the same, scared.
My name is Stacy Stoll, and you can tell my family. If I had to say 3 words, is yes, first, I'm happy to be here. Second is understanding. And the third word is love.
My name's Melanie.
Pain, testimony, and hopeful.
My name is Dylan. I'm struggling, searching, and I love.
My name is Dale, I'm here with my family, my wife, my son, and his friend. Grateful to be here. Really felt the Spirit this morning, and I felt a lot of compassion, understanding. I have strong testimony of the church and the prophet. Don't understand everything, but feel hopeful and confident that in the end things will work out.
I'm Pauline. 3 words are sorrow, dismay, hope.
My name is Nicolette. I'm here with my friend Andy and his family. I feel a lot of love here with the policy. I feel confused and conflicted.
Everybody came up with their words so quick, I don't know. Can't get ready. I guess with the policy, I feel confused. But I guess also I've taken like a step back and just kind of said, whatever.
My name's Chelsea. I'm living in LA, but I'm from Westchester, New York, where I have a ward that has not only, accepted and tolerated me, but loved me and boosted me and bolstered me through figuring out where I want to be and who I am, which is what makes the policy feel all the more difficult because it feels like it's in complete contrast to that love and compassion I felt. I feel hurt and betrayed and shamed.
My name is Jamie, and I think I feel a lot similar to what these two are saying, that I feel confused, frustrated, and searching.
My name's Kelly. In regards to the policy change. Confused, and confused.
Damon, I'm feeling, I think, rejected, disappointed, a lot of disappointment, but I try to keep faith.
Christian, I'm down from Salt Lake City, out gay man, and I in my Elders Quorum presidency, and about the policy. Disappointed, resolute, hopeful.
Hi, my name's Matt. I live in Burbank with my wife. I'm an ally, I guess I feel at a crossroads. And those 3 words.
My name is Jordan. I'm from Vegas. 3 words I would say is surprise, sadness, and excluded.
Justin from Seattle. Nothing new, but sad, angry, and confused.
My name's Josh, and speaking again, and In regards to the policy, currently, I feel patient and hopeful and confident.
Okay, wave that way.
Darren from Orange County, and I think 3 words would be betrayed and discouraged and authenticity.
I'm Rod Olson. I'm in Utah right now, but I live here in LA. I felt unsettled, and then immediately sort of a peace, and then I had an opportunity to be in a lot of service. So unsettled, peace, and service.
Ryan, here to listen.
Thank you.
I pass.
Okay.
Mark, trusting God.
Kurt, about the policy, I feel kicked. About the church, I feel demonized. But about the gospel itself, I feel very faithful.
And you're the last one.
Pass.
Okay.
She's not the last one.
Oh. Our filters.
I'm worried and angry and in a weird way appreciative because I think it's a catalyst for conversations that need to happen.
Thank you. I honor your honesty and your willingness to share. Immediately, obviously, feeling the emotion in the room very deeply. I'll just start by saying that what I've heard here in the room today, I think is very representative of what I've heard from hundreds of people that I've interacted with around this. And in my role as president of Affirmation, I think I've just kind of made myself an unofficial. If you talk to me for more than 2 minutes, you're going to hear me ask you, so what do you think about the policy? What's been going on for you? And so I hear a lot of despair, a lot of pain, a lot of exclusion. That's the majority response. That's what we're hearing almost across the board. We're also hearing glimmers of hope. And a very, to me, inspiring and reassuring expressions of love. So you're not alone. When I talked to my bishop the week after the news hit, and I met with my bishop, and he said about 60% of our ward were really struggling with this. We're really having a hard time with it. And that floored me when he said that. And what that said to me is, I'm the only openly gay person I know of in my ward. And so what that said to me is the majority of my straight brothers and sisters are really struggling with this. They don't know what to do with it. And somehow that made me feel a little bit better to know that we're in something together, that we're struggling. So I guess I'd like to, again, put it back to you and ask you what questions you have or what thoughts you have, or is there anything that any of you would like any of us to share, or anybody else to share?
As a grandfather in the group, my first reaction was, how does this affect my 2 daughters? One that is temple worthy, and the other who is semi-active, and my 8 grandchildren. my brother and his wife, who are all active in the church, and I was the first one that joined. And all of them are faithful, active members because of me. And because of my introduction and my faith in raising them as a single father who's gay in the church because my wife died when she was 30 and my children were 3 and 5. And labeled as an apostate, I thought, what can they say when they are asked if they associate with an apostate group or an apostate? How will that affect their temple reckoning? And my first thought was, I need to delineate myself from them. So it's been difficult for me. Unlike most of you who are young, and it's your parents looking down at you, I'm a parent looking the other direction. I've been excommunicated. I'm with my same-sex spouse, my 12th wedding anniversary, legally, lawfully married for 12 years in British Columbia. Happily married. And I thought of my past, starting in 1964 when I went on my mission. And we were taught that gay is changeable. If you just get married, it's going to go away. And I believed that I was born with the tendency to be gay. But it was my belief that they're prophets, so even though I felt it, I thought, they must be right, I must be wrong. So I got married. And when my wife died, I was very angry because I was still gay. And when I moved to Switzerland and lived there for 15 years because my wife was from France, and I wanted my children to speak French, and now they speak French beautifully, and I speak like a Spanish cow. And I came back to Alberta where I had served my mission. I'm American by birth, born and raised in New Mexico. And I went back and I was with this lady, and she was getting kind of interested, so I thought, I need to tell you I'm gay. And she presented me an article by Dallin Oaks, and it said, it's more likely that you're born with the tendency to be gay, and you should remain celibate. And I thought, when did God change his mind? And I was more than upset. I was livid. And it was at that point that I decided that I would search for a spouse. And I ended up getting excommunicated, totally inactive for 4 years, went to the Community of Christ. And then when I married my spouse, encouraged me to go back to the Mormon Church and to be an example to my children and my grandchildren, which I have done up until this. And I can only see this as another mistake. And as a mistake, it can be corrected. It is not doctrine. It is policy. They made mistakes with their previous policies. They made a mistake this time. And I thought, this is wonderful. I'm so glad that the apostles made mistakes. They're good men. They're old. They're all Republicans. And I thought, it's fine. They pray for inspiration, and I know that they are inspired. When I go to church on Sunday, and I see how the organization of the church is so beautiful, and it's so perfect, and the members of the church all love me. It's only the policies that are a little bit far off. And I think this too will change. It is a policy. And I thought, if an apostle can make mistakes, if the quorum of the 12 can make mistakes, thank goodness, because I've made so many in my life. And so that is how I am trying my best to look at it. Our time will yet come.
I hope everybody was able to hear that story good. So I have a question for you, if you don't mind answering. It sounded like you said you were kind of distancing yourself from your kids and your grandkids because you were afraid of the impact that now that you and I are both in the same boat, we're officially apostates now. Fortunately, I have seen not any difference in terms of how people in my ward have been treating me or how leaders and members of the church have been treating me. Have your children distanced themselves from you, or you just...
It was me distancing myself from them. And my children and my granddaughter, my oldest granddaughter is 23, and she's in her 5th year of medical school. By the way, my son-in-law was in a stake presidency, so when I say that they're active, I don't mean just a little. My daughter is Miss Molly Mormon. My other daughter married a non-member, semi-active. But all of them have professed their love to me. And it's more me because I guess it's just my psychological thing that, how could they do this to me? Because I raised my girls in the church and I taught them that marriage was between a man and a woman and that I might be gay, but I wasn't acting or asking for a temple marriage. I wasn't looking for anything. I was just looking for a little safe spot where I could go to church and be with my same-sex spouse, and I didn't really care whether it was till death do you part or it wasn't till death do you part. Let Heavenly Father decide that. I didn't feel like I was an apostate. So to designate me as an apostate, because before I was just, I was excommunicated because I'd broken the law of chastity. I could live with that. But I couldn't live with the fact that I was labeled as an apostate. And to designate me as a polygamist, because a polygamist is a teaching, being gay is a birthmark. And I just couldn't. But as I said, it's a mistake. I mean, how many of you don't think that it's a mistake? I mean, I think everybody in here agrees. I mean, you just look at it, and it's a mistake. And it's easier for me to handle that because of being old. And I went through that process with being told to get married. And then all of a sudden, no, you should have said celibate. Well, which one is right? The first one or the last one? Does that mean my children never should have been born? I lived through that one already. So then to have to adjust to this one, it's very easy for me to say, well, that's another mistake. They make them.
Thank you.
And so do we.
Right.
I guess I'll just share a little bit of my story. My wife was not a member when we got married, and in fact, when we got married, her words to me were, "I will never ever be a Mormon." But I married her anyway because I was in love, and it was definitely the right thing to do. But about 5 years into our marriage, she had some pretty profound experiences with the Spirit and with the Savior, and decided to join the church, in spite of the fact that her mom is gay. And we happened to both be, at that time, and still working in musical theater, so most of our male friends were also gay. And so she and I were both, loved the gospel, but have always had significant trouble with the church's stance on homosexuality. And that has been difficult, but at the same time, we found such love and truth in the pure gospel of Christ that we've since been sealed in the temple and all of these things. And really loved our association with the church and have some dear friends in the church. When the policy came through, we had both been feeling rather hopeful that things were moving sort of in good directions. And after the Defense of Marriage Act fell away, and then when marriage was legalized, we were sort of practically giddy, and we were in Provincetown celebrating with her mom, her wife, and after the year before we had been at one of the most gorgeous weddings ever, and most so filled with love and truth. So when the policy hit, it hurt really bad. My wife had already sort of stopped going to church for the past, I'd say 6 months before the policy changed. Maybe she sensed it in the air, I don't know. But I've been extremely active. I served in mission. I've served in a bishopric. I was a high priest group leader in our last ward. And I was, when I heard the news that Sunday, I was supposed to teach in high priests. And for the first time in my entire life, I didn't want to teach the gospel. It's one of the things that I love to do more than anything. Over the years, I've had a great deal of inspiration and revelation in my life, and that's the one thing that I treasure. And I have had experiences that sort of how do I say this? Kind of revealed a way forward, in that in the eternities, that the eternal family is much more diverse than I think our current Mormon culture supports. I guess I'll say it that way. And it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing, and I believe in it, and I know it just the way I know that that Christ is my Savior. And then there's just the way that I know that love in my life. So when the policy hit, I didn't know what to do. I called my old bishop, who I served with in the bishopric, who's a good man, and he was actually one of the few people who reached out to me on Facebook and said, "I know this must hurt." And I wasn't sure what I was going to do. I didn't know if I could stay in the church after something like this that felt so unchristlike. Where is Christ in this was my feeling. And it hit me in a very personal way too, because my wife grew up with, her mom came out when she was about 9, and so she spent most of half of her childhood in a house with a same-sex couple. And if the timing was different, and she was investigating the church, given this new policy, she would have been asked to potentially disavow her mother's relationship. And let's not be naive. You can't really disavow that kind of relationship without feeling like you're disavowing your parents. And to me, that's one of the 5. One of the 10 Commandments. That's number 5, right? Just saying. And so this to me felt like it was an attack on even though it doesn't really, on the surface, my wife and our 3 kids and me, we have the perfect sort of profile for being Mormons. We get all the privileges, and we don't have, and it's. But it felt like it was an attack against my family, which I've always felt very personally motivated by this issue. But this just was a step too far, and especially when I thought things were moving in a better direction. So I prayed a lot, and it felt like I had to decide whether to leave the church, which has been something that I've loved my whole life, you know, or to do battle or something, you know, and so that's why I feel like I'm at a crossroads. The inspiration came that it's not time to leave yet, and that there's good for me to do. I also, the inspiration also came to bear my testimony about it. And a couple of, a month, I did in December, at that testimony meeting, I shared my feelings about the new policy. And that I believe in the church, that I even sustain the apostles and the prophets, but that I oppose this measure, and I think that, and I shared with my Lord how much it hurt. And there was a great outpouring of support and love after that from the general membership. And but after then I went to teach East Sunday School class, and after that, a member of the bishopric stepped in and said the stake president would like to see me. Of course, he and his council were on the stand that day. And I had already had a conversation with my stake president about how I felt about this. And so he had a long talk with me, trying to help me sort of understand, you know, the errors of my ways, I guess, and trying to paint a picture of like how impossible it would be that that an eternal family could be a same-sex marriage, and I mentioned the doctrine of adoption, which has been in the church since Abraham. Anyways, I don't want to get into all of that. But then later that week, I had a meeting with my bishop, and he asked me to stop teaching. So I'm no longer teaching in the high priest group, and I'm no longer teaching the youth Sunday school. And aside from my anger and sadness at the policy itself, the thing that is almost the most disappointing and upsetting to me is that the leadership does not feel willing to hear other voices. And I felt like my voice was silenced. And I'm not sure what to do about that. I'm really, again, at a crossroads, because I feel like I have a few choices. You know, to leave the church and you know, stop going, stop taking my children, who are vocal about this issue every day. And they're like, what are they thinking? Or stay in the church and just duck and cover and just go along, or to fight and to risk my membership, which in a not so subtle way, it was clear that my membership could be in jeopardy if I were to continue publicly talking about this. So that's where I am, and I know I want to have a more hopeful message to share, but I've been praying about it, and I have yet to kind of come to any clarity, and I think a big part of it is because I'm afraid of what the answer might be. None of the paths forward right now are something that I like, or am really interested in. But the thing that I can share is just that my knowledge is clear about God's love for all of us, for everyone in this room, for every sexual orientation, every possible configuration you can come up with, and ones that haven't even been labeled yet. It's clear to me that there is a way forward in the gospel of Christ, and that God has many mansions, and those mansions include every single one of his children, and that it's not whether we'll be with him but it's a matter of certainty, and that anyone who feels that the Lord does not approve or love or have a place for you, I believe that He does and will always.
We haven't yet been personally affected by any, or have anybody in our family or anything that's gay, or so it's hard being allies or just being straight to know how our reaction is affecting those that are being personally influenced by it. And I feel like we were really hopeful before the policy came out. We felt like things were progressive or changing, or that we just were cut off at the knees. And I feel like at this point that if we go or continue to go or go back at this point, that we are supporting the rejection of the entire LGBT community. And I don't know how I can go back and in good faith or in and sleep at night, feeling like that I am rejecting all of these people. And I don't know how to reconcile that part for myself, that I'm not supporting the rejection of so many. And I guess because I need to know from those that are in it. Because I feel like those that are in it are handling it better than we are.
You know, the day after the policy came out, I called, I was getting calls from the media, and they wanted people from Affirmation to comment on it. And they wanted to, it was news media in Arizona, and so I called Jonathan Manwaring, who's a bishop in Arizona and has a gay brother, and I said, can you talk to the media? And he said, I cannot. If they put a microphone in front of my face, I'm going to say something that I will regret and that's going to get me in trouble with the church. And he was just so depressed and so heartbroken. And I asked him how his brother was doing, and he said, oh, he's fine. But they were suffering. I don't know if the other panelists have their own ideas on this. My feeling is that you show your support for LGBT folks through your words, through your actions, through the love that you show. And you need to understand that some of the most vulnerable people right now are the people in your congregation who you don't even know are gay. And you need to understand how important it is for them to see people who are openly supportive of them. And so I would say that just being at church is not in itself a statement either for or against the policy or either for or against LGBT folks. It's what you do and how you are there that's going to communicate that. And that's really hard. You know, what's your name?
Matt.
Matt. You can get in trouble if you say certain things.
Yep.
So I think you have to be creative in terms of how do you show support. And we have some really great examples here. You know, I thought Sister Franson was a great example of somebody who has found some ways to express love and support without, you know, running into some of those kinds of problems. But so I think it takes some creativity on our part. But my inclination would be to say, don't go just, thank you, just don't go just because you're afraid that your presence there communicates lack of support.
I'm a blessed man in that I've been able to live practically a straight life and have a family and be active in the church and have all of the privileges of a white gay man, but acting straight in my life. And it's only been in the last 5 or 6 years that I've been out to my priesthood leaders at church, and they've been loving and supporting of me all the way through since I started making that disclosure. And at the time of the policy announcement, I was serving as ward mission leader in my ward. The policy hit me and our family with great hurt and dismay and grief. I went to my bishop the following Sunday. He called me in. He knew that we were hurting. And I would say for you that are allies to the church, allies in the church to the LGBT community, that your small acts of kindness and love, I had people call me, come up to me at church and just want to hug me and say, we love you.
We even had people deliver cookies.
Yeah, that Sunday we came home from something and there was a plate of cookies in our and the message, please don't go, we love you. That's really important, that those small acts of kindness are demonstrated. We do feel loved. We had a 30, 45-minute conversation with my bishop that Sunday after, and which was tearful and full of questions and why, and he let me talk. He didn't try to counsel me or tell me in any way that I was wrong or that those feelings were inappropriate. He just let me talk. One of the things that I said, and that was really difficult, was, I'm sorry, Bishop, but I can no longer be a ward mission leader. I just can't, with any integrity. And I asked to be released from my calling. And I said, and I don't know if I should turn in my temple recommend to you, because I'm struggling with this at such a core level. He said, I want you to hang on to your temple recommend. I want you to pray about it. I want you to go to the temple. So I did. And in December, before Christmas, the week before Christmas, we went to the Portland Temple, and I was pondering this in my mind, and I started an endowment session, and the Spirit told me, this is the last time you'll be in the temple for a long time, if ever, again. And those of you that are endowed that can go to the temple, the next time you go, I want you to sit in that endowment session and consider the possibility, if you were told you are no longer going to have access to this in your life, what that ceremony and what is taught, what it means to you. I wept all the way through that endowment session. It was really hard. The thing that I learned coming out of that session was that the Lord is not averse to pain. We have that portrayal in the endowment session of the Lord expelling the people that he loved from his presence. We have the explanation of, I know not save the Lord commanded me, of making a sacrifice that we don't understand. And we have taught to us that our Heavenly Father, because he loved us, was willing to sacrifice even his Son. Can you imagine the pain of that? He understands our pain. He is not averse to pain. I walked away from that endowment session no longer carrying the anger and the questions and that sense of being totally unsettled. I walked away from that endowment session with peace in my heart because I had felt the Spirit of the Lord tell me, it's okay, I'm in charge. I do believe that through conflict, change happens. Change is needed to happen. And therefore, I'm in peace with the policy. Yeah, Kurt. And this will, I guess I think we might actually be over our time, but we started late, so you can have the final word here.
And I'll try to be succinct.
Okay.
To the allies who are so concerned, two things. First, thank you. Second, you will do us no good if you leave the church. You will then be discounted, and so will your views. You can help more by staying. I'm a true believer, so I don't believe that's the only reason you should be staying. But you will do us no good if you leave voluntarily. I do understand the moral tension of attending something and giving it your moral sanction without somehow distancing yourself from it, whether it's dramatically or quietly. There's a very beautiful video that British Muslims have put out to distance themselves from ISIS called Not In My Name. Not suggesting you do a video. but you can convey that in various ways. You do not treat these people that way in my name. As a gay man, the hardest thing for me was to figure out in the teeth of something that I had pretty profound doubts about the veracity of, how I would handle it. But I'm fortunate in that I'm a convert to the church, so I don't have the acculturation that comes from having been raised in it. And it forced me to go back to something that's really quite fundamental that I believe the Mormon prophets, many of them, have been saying for quite a long time. And that was at the core of my original conversion, which is that you stop listening to what anybody else says and you develop a relationship with God and you ask Him what it is He wants you to do, and you do it. And if you do what God tells you, you can do no wrong.
I couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you very much. I'd like to be able to have each member of this panel say, here's the answer, it's fixed, go home and be at peace. I'd like to be able to say that, but I can't. I think the best I can say is it may feel unsettled for a lot of us for a long time. And but again, I want to reiterate that there are glimmers of hope in this room, and what is most hopeful to me are the expressions of love that I hear here. So if we can just remember to be a little bit more loving to one another, reach out for somebody's hand, give a hug, leave a plate of cookies with little rainbows on them, whatever you can do so that we can be in this together. Because there are way, way too many of us who feel like we're in this alone, like we're on our own, right? And that we must not allow. And there's nothing in our church teaching that says we have to let anybody feel like they're alone. Let anybody feel like they have to distance themselves from their families. Okay? So, go in peace. so now is lunch, I guess, and then all the workshops are gonna be done all over again after the lunch break, starting at 12:15.
How does, so with your serving in the college, how does the Bishop of
That's what
So, I was called to the Illinois presidency 10 days before the policy. And the president, I had been he invited me to be part of the Yellowstone presidency. Oh, wow. You know, it wasn't a question, but you know that I'm unorthodox. Remember? Sure.
I went to.
I was like, yes. And he teared up. He wept. He's like, but we need you.